Hey, what's up, everybody? This is ParlayDoc from Twitter, from wager.life. It's 12:30 a.m. Central Time. Yes, I am a degenerate for being up this late, but got a busy day of work tomorrow, kids' Christmas play. So this is when I'm going to squeeze in some research, and hopefully I get a few people to join here so that we can discuss together and do some research for the Thursday night football game. So feel free to chime in and discuss some thoughts together. Basically, let's brainstorm, try to find some value, look at some things that stand out, and maybe we could find a few straight props and plays. Maybe build the beginnings of a same game parlay together. So first, we'll just get started and people can watch this recording later. But let's just go through some key injuries that we need to keep an eye out for. I'm not going to list them all, but basically, for the Chiefs, one of the key ones is going to be obviously it's going to be Chris Jones. I know some people are saying, well, it won't be that big of a deal. I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think Chris Jones, if he ends up being out, that's going to be somewhat of a problem because, he leads the team with like 56 pressures. And if he's not in, then, Herbert's just going to have that much more time in the pocket. So I think that's a key injury to kind of look out for. Looking at some of their stats, as is, the Chiefs are ranked, only, not so great when it comes to kind of their rush, and pressures on the quarterback. So then you take out Chris Jones, that's going to be a big factor. So that's something to look out for. On the Chargers side, there's so many question marks. So again, I think before you guys lock in too many bets and parlays and things, keep an eye out on the Chargers side of the injury list because there's a bunch and some key ones too. On the Chargers side, obviously you have Eckler. His status is kind of in question, so you got to keep an eye on that because that affects the offense quite a bit. But not just Eckler, but on the defense, Derwin James, Gilliman, Asante Samuel Jr. So you got some key safeties, and you got corner. Who potentially may not play, and that's going to be a big deal. And the reason that's a big deal, Eckler is important, definitely. So, but the reason that you got to look at that is because the way that the Chargers play defense, right? They play a lot of that kind of too high safety shell. And they're pretty good at keeping QBs in check with the deep balls, and they rank kind of high up there in reducing deep threats, and that would obviously frustrate Mahomes, as good as he is. And you may see him forcing things, getting frustrated when the deep routes aren't there and wide open. So basically, if the Chargers secondary is healthy and they got their key guys, they're going to basically force Mahomes to dink and dunk and, use those underneath routes. And it's really going to be up to Mahomes. Is he going to, get frustrated and force the issue and throw a handful of picks like we've seen him do sometimes this season? Or will he be patient, dink and dunk, do the underneath routes, do some runs, and then, just kind of pick and choose his spots once he's kind of, basically, lull the Chargers into a comfort zone. But again, a lot of that's going to be dependent on, are the key guys in the Chargers secondary going to be healthy or not? So that's all kind of spend talking about that. But, we got to keep a close eye on the injury report itself, because that could just totally alter, the outlook of the game, basically. So, look, let's dive into some key statistics. So I know some of you out there, don't really want to spend the money on some of those premium tools for Football Outsiders, Fantasy Labs, etc. So let's go over some of those metrics right now. And again, look, these statistics and analytics and projections, they are what they are. They're just projections, but it's nice to kind of just have a general sense of some of the stats. So let's go over a few of those, especially for those of you who don't have those subscriptions. Let's just kind of go over some key facts. So first, let's look over the team defense DVOA ratings. Okay, so First, let's talk about Kansas City. So look, the Chiefs, if you even followed my timeline or you follow Football Outsiders, you would have seen that earlier in the season, I mean, they were kind of towards the bottom, kind of fluctuating between like the last three teams in terms of team defense DVOA. So their rankings have really shot up. Now they're ranked about 17th in team defense DVOA rankings when you kind of aggregate all their data, basically. So, but again, one of the key is going to be, what is the injury status, and, is Chris Jones going to play or not in regards to the pressure? But if we look at Kansas City, they're ranked 17th overall. Their pass defense DVOA is just middling, ranked 15th. So average pass defense. Their rush defense is actually kind of, still not that great. They're about 20th. They have gotten better, but they're still ranked 20th there. So those are kind of their general rankings. Now for the Chargers, they're actually, as a team, they're actually surprisingly, they're ranked, 20th in team defense DVOA ratings. But the thing to remember here is their pass defense DVOA is ranked 9th. So they're actually pretty good in terms of, stopping the pass. And it's part of that is because of the fact that they're limiting deep balls, right? With that too high, safety shell defense, they play that kind of defensive style, the too high shell safeties, like at the third highest rate. So they're really kind of limiting deep balls and deep threats. So that's part of the reason why they have kind of a high pass defense DVOA ranking, but their rush defense DVOA ranking is 32nd. Now, if this were versus a team that had like a legit monster, rushing offense, then that would be a big deal. But we're talking about the Chiefs, so take that with a grain of salt. But if there was the soft spot, it's kind of their rush defense rankings for the Chargers. Okay, so let's now, last thing we'll talk about with the defensive statistics. Let's look at the actual defensive stats versus particular receivers. Okay, by each team, and then we'll kind of move off of this topic after that. But again, for those of you who don't have access to Football Outsiders, let's go over some of those stats. Okay, so let's start with Kansas City. So if we break it down and we look at the Kansas City Chiefs pass defense and their rankings versus specific receivers, okay, it looks like versus wide receiver number ones, kind of the top receiver on opposing teams, they rank 10th in kind of, their defensive rankings against wide receiver ones. Not as good against whoever the secondary receiver is. They rank 19th there. Their average in guarding tight ends, so they're 14th versus receiving tight ends, and pretty poor 27th versus receiving running backs, okay? So that stands out, right? So, I know one guy here was talking about Eckler. So watching out for Eckler's status, if he's in, obviously, that's going to be a soft spot on the Chiefs defense. It seems like they're ranked pretty damn low in stopping receiving running backs. So running backs who can catch, run out in the flat, screen passes, etc. So if Eckler's in, obviously you're taking a gamble on, even if he's in, is he at full strength, right? Or is he going to play more of a decoy role? But if you think he's healthy enough to play and he's a go, that would be something I would consider, looking at his, potentially his receiving yards, because that seems to be a soft spot. Again, they're like 27th in defending receiving, running backs basically in the pass game. So take a look at that. Let's look at fantasy lab projections there. So for receiving yards, let's see. Right now they don't even list any projections for Eckler just because he's so iffy with his status. So, I can't even comment on any kind of fantasy lab projections there. But again, just take a look at that. See, what the line is going to be set at. I don't even know if it's up right now, but that would be something I'd look at just because it's such a soft spot for the Chiefs. Now let's move on to the Chargers and their defensive rankings versus specific receivers. Okay, so again, it looks like, overall as a team, they're 9th in pass defense DVOA, but versus specific receivers, they're actually, not the best versus wide receiver ones. They're 19th versus wide receiver ones. But again, they're also decent at shutting down deep balls. So you have to kind of think to yourself, will they involve like Tyreek Hill, if you consider him the one, in some of the underneath stuff, and be willing to have him do some shorter crossing routes, use his speed to make a move, break some tackles, or are they literally just going to keep doing long, deep post routes and out routes? And is he just going to get shut down, basically, right? So that's another thing to kind of think about there. They rank 6th in shutting down wide receiver number 2, so pretty good there. They're 6th in shutting down other kind of the ancillary wide receivers, so they're pretty good there. Another soft spot for the Chargers, they're 22nd in defending tight end receivers. So Kelsey could be due for a big game. Again, if they're playing those 2 high safeties for Tyreek Hill, they already are kind of soft in guarding tight ends. Will Kelsey have a lot of opportunities kind of in that middle range passing game? So will the Chiefs be smart and try to take advantage of this, or are they just going to keep trying to force deep balls, and will Mahomes just keep chucking it down there? So another soft spot, again, is Kelsey's line something you want to look at? So just another thing to think about. All right. So those are some of the, defensive rankings. So now let's move on to kind of another tool that I use. So let's move on from Football Outsiders. Let's go to Odds Jams. Okay. So let's go to oddsjam.com. Let's see what stands out. It may change tomorrow and have more options, but let's see what positive EV bets they have listed for now. So we can kind of talk about that. So again, positive EV means you're getting, kind of, better than expected value based off kind of, implied probabilities where kind of sharp books are setting their lines. So let me search and see what's available right now as of tonight. Okay, looks like there is one positive EV bet listed. So right now, so take some notes here for the handful of you that are here. And see, just mark this down, do your own research, see if this is something you like. They list Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 passing completions. Okay, they list that as a positive EV opportunity. Pinnacle Sportsbook, which is considered a very sharp sportsbook with very tight lines, they have as over 25.5 completions listed at plus 102 odds. Okay, so plus 102 is kind of our reference line of where theoretically kind of fit, closest to like fair odds it should be. And Odds Jam is letting us know right now on DraftKings, it's plus 125. Okay, so DraftKings, it's plus 125 for Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 completions. And basically see that's what plus EV is about. Okay, so again, you have a sharp book that we're kind of using as a baseline. They're listing his over of 25.5 completions at plus 102. DraftKings seems to be a little bit off, and there's some value there. They're listing at plus 125 odds. So you're getting slightly over 4%, so 4.15% edge versus kind of where the tight line should be. Okay, so that's pretty good. So let's just look now at props.cash. I know I use a lot of tools, but this is kind of my process. So we know that it's plus EV, so it's a smart bet, okay, because you're getting value there. So your positive EV means like if you bet this over 10,000 times, like these are the types of bets you want to do, because it's positive expected profit over time versus making negative EV bets. All right. So let's see. Props.cash shows that completion wise, his hit rate on this is 6 out of 13, so 46%. So look, it's like 50-50. So it's not some, guaranteed thing by any means, but you kind of got it close to like a 50-50 type of, scenario over the course of the season. So look, it's not huge, enormous value. It's not a lot, but there's value there. Okay. So 25.5 completions, right? So it's not super easy, but you can think of it 2 ways, right? If the secondary on the Chargers isn't fully healthy and they're not going to be able to shut down the deep ball as much, does that give Mahomes an opportunity to take advantage? Or you can think of it the other way. Let's say all of the secondary is healthy for the Chargers, and they are going to shut down the deep threats and say, beat us by dinking and dunking all day. You can almost see that as an advantage. And will he have to just do higher volume, shorter passes and be able to, hit that over? Again, as long as he could just complete them and his receivers catch him and don't drop it, that might be a route to the over as well. So if you believe that he can hit that over in either of those scenarios, right now, if you have access to DraftKings, again, it's a smart value bet. Okay. It has positive expected value, positive expected profit over the long run for these types of bets. So that would be a smart bet. May not hit, but if it hits, you bet and you want a smart bet versus just trying to force something because you like it. Okay, so there's actual statistical probable, there's value there. So it's just up to you, but it looks like that is something I'm going to bet. So I'm going to mark that down for me as soon as we get off this live chat. I am going to take Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 completions. It is a plus EV bet. He has been playing a little bit better, so I think that one is worthwhile. So I'm going to probably mark that down. I'm going to take that bet. Okay. So, all right. So that's the one plus EV bet that's listed. If I see any pop up tomorrow as more lines start fluctuating, I'll take a look at that and I'll try to post something on Twitter as well. Okay. So, that's kind of the process of what I do. So I look at the defensive statistics, look at some projections from Fantasy Lab. So let's do that next. Let's see what stands out as high grades. So again, this is another tool. So I did Football Outsiders for my DVOA statistics. I looked at OddsJam for positive EV scenarios, props.cash for trends, and now I'm looking at Fantasy Labs. So let's look at some projections. I'm going to just sift through these and see what Fantasy Labs grades as kind of like high grade lines right now. So I'll read off a few to you that are kind of at the upper end. They list Darrell Williams over 2.5 receptions, which is right now plus 125 on DraftKings. Fantasy Labs grades that as a 10 out of 10. So they seem to, really like that over and the odds you're getting. So they kind of do grades by not only just the projections and whether their projection models go over where the line is set, but what type of value you're getting on the actual odds themselves. So they grade, again, so specifically to DraftKings, Darrell Williams over 2.5 receptions plus 125. They grade that a 10 out of 10. They have him projected for about 3.1 receptions there. So if you're looking for one of the highest grades, that's one of their highest graded ones right now. The ones after that, they also have his over on, so Darrell Williams over on receiving yards at, over 16.5 on, it looks like probably MGM. They project him closer to like 23 to 26 yards. So, that's another one they're kind of grading as like high value. They have Jalen Guyton's under on his receiving yards, under 22.5. They grade that as an 8 out of 10. They think he's only going to project for around 16.5 yards or so. Let's see here. What else do we got? They also okay. So this is even. They also list Patrick Mahomes. We just talked about this. Over 25.5 completions. They like that. Yeah, as a 7 out of 10. They graded that as well. So, all right. So those are some of the ones that kind of stand out right now. These fluctuate and change as well as lines fluctuate, but that's kind of what is popping off right now on the screen. So. Let's see here. So Lane Holmes said, I like the under 22.5. Under 22.5 for what? For whose? Let's see here. Yeah, for Jalen Guyton, yeah. They grade that pretty high. So let's look at his trends. Let me go into props.cash and see the trends real quick to save me some time of Googling. So Guyton. What do we got here? So it looks like he has gotten, so in terms of receiving yards, he's hit the over only 5 out of 13 times. So 38%. So yeah, you're right. So out to, responding to Lane and Aiden, looks like, he's only had a 38% hit rate on that. So so he's got a 38% hit rate. So not hitting that at a pretty high, not hitting that at a good clip. Fantasy Labs projects him for around 16.5 or so, from the consensus projection models, and they grade the under on DraftKings. So on DraftKings right now, it's minus 115. That's where they're finding the best value on that under. So if you like the under, DraftKings is where you want to go, minus 115. They're grading that at 8 out of 10. So if you like that one, that's the book I would go to. Okay. So now that we've just kind of had a chance to go through all those different tools, right? So we've done, DVOA statistics. Hey, what's up, Mickey? So DVOA statistics through Football Outsiders, found some positive EV with OddsJam on Mahomes over on completions, over 25.5 on DraftKings. That's positive EV. So if you like that, bet it now before the odds get smashed under plus 125 and it loses its edge or value, basically. Seems like some of the folks on here like Guyton's under on his receiving yards. We already said Darrell Williams over on receptions, over on receiving yards seems to be graded pretty high by Fantasy Lab. So look into that, do your own research. I'll dig into that a little bit more. I'm not going to jump the gun just yet, but I'm going to read up on that a bit more. But those were things that stood out on Fantasy Lab projections as well. So now, before we move on to touchdowns, which is more of a guessing game, anyone else on the chat? There's a handful of people right now. Any other props that kind of stand out to you guys? I know a lot's in the air right now with all the Chargers secondary guys being questionable at this point. So yeah, it looks like a lot of people on the Chiefs -3. So yeah, I think so. I mean, look, if you like the Chiefs, I think now's a pretty decent time to grab the -3. It's always a guessing game. Look, I could be wrong, but if some of those key secondary guys on the Chargers are finally announced being ruled out, and you know how flaky these announcements are, they might be super, last minute, and odds may fluctuate, but this could easily move to -3.5, which would be obviously a key number, and you don't really want to cross that. So I think it's a gamble on a gamble, but if you like the Chiefs, you might as well grab them now prior to any further news. And look, obviously it could go the other way, but if your gut and whatever you're reading on different news sources, if you think some of those key secondary guys on the Chargers are going to be out, obviously any breaking news about that's going to make the line shift a bit to, like -3.5 probably. So I would just grab the -3 if you're going to do the Chiefs. So, all right. So now let's move on to what's obviously more of the guessing game and gamble. And it's so unpredictable. Let's talk about touchdown scores. So let's start off with, ones that you just feel are as safe as touchdown scores can be. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I kept thinking Kelsey was going to score, but let's go over, some, kind of quote unquote safer ones that you feel, are plays that you play even as like straight bets. Okay. So it looks like some people here Let's see. We got someone saying Mahomes first TD value on primetime. Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, actually, I'm not a huge Edwards-Helaire fan, but like I said, interestingly, the Chargers, their DVOA statistics versus the running game isn't as strong as I thought it would be versus their pass defense DVOA. So actually that's actually pretty decent. So let's look at that and let's be helpful to you guys here. So let's go to line shop for you guys. Let's look at touchdowns. Where's touchdowns here? Touchdown. Oh, I guess on this line shopping website, they're not listing touchdowns at the moment. So, okay. Well, I would just check and see. Any of you guys know what the odds are on that right now for him? Let's see right here. Let's go. I have DraftKings opened up right now. So let's see on DraftKings. Anytime touchdown. So we got Edwards-Helaire at plus 100. If you want him as first TD score, that's plus 750. Let's see on FanDuel, which logs me out a million times, which is annoying. What do we got on FanDuel? All right. Odds on FanDuel. Edwards-Helaire plus 120. So, I mean, between the two major big books, if you're going to do Edwards-Helaire, they got plus, let's see here, plus 120 for Clyde Edwards-Helaire on FanDuel, which is better than DraftKings at plus 100. So Mickey is saying he's got BetMGM. Yeah, it looks like MGM, it's kind of juiced at minus 105. So if you have access to FanDuel, it looks like on FanDuel right now it's plus 120, which is pretty decent, for him. Okay, so other ones I mean, that's not a bad one. So that's something I might sprinkle on. Like I said, if the Chargers secondary is pretty healthy, they're going to be shutting down deep threats. So, that might limit Hill to some degree. So you might be wanting to look at Edwards-Helaire. Even though Kelsey keeps screwing me, I'd probably still look at Kelsey because, like I said, for those who missed it earlier, when we see the DVOA breakdowns versus specific receivers, Chargers are actually 22nd, okay, versus versus tight ends. So, I might just basically be a masochist and screw myself one more time, but I might go down the Kelsey route just one more time. And if I get screwed by him 3 weeks in a row, then I'll finally just stop, and then he'll probably score the following week. But so I think just based off the DVOA statistic breakdown versus specific receiving positions, because they're kind of soft versus tight ends, I almost feel like because of that positive regression, I'll give Kelsey a shot again for a touchdown. So you can say right now on this recording, I'm going to bet Kelsey anytime TD one last time, and hopefully third time in 3 weeks in a row. Third time's a charm. And then if he doesn't come through tomorrow, then I'm just done with him for the rest of the regular season until it's playoffs, basically. So I think, for me, I'll do Kelsey. I'll think about Edwards-Helaire. I think that's some good value there. What do you guys think about Chargers? Obviously, Eckler is a huge question mark. Even if he's in, is he fully healthy? If he's in, anytime TD is probably going to be super juiced, I'm guessing, right? So let's see. He's already minus 150 on DraftKings. He's minus 165 on FanDuel. So that's kind of rough for something as flaky as a touchdown. It looks like he is better. Mickey says, Eckler's minus 135 on MGM. So if you are going to take it, then BetMGM. I don't have access to that in Illinois, but if you have access to BetMGM, it looks like that's the place to go if you're going to do Eckler. If it wasn't for the fact that he was banged up, I'd probably be excited and go look at his like +2, 2+ TD lines. I'm not sure if I'm inclined to do that, just given his health status at this point. So who else do you guys like for Chargers TDs? So I mean, why don't we talk about long shot angles, like just off the wall kind of long shot touchdowns. I guess one thing to consider is let's say Eckler's out, right? Let's see here. And again, I'm just kind of talking out loud here. And these are just like, again, just dart throws, right? But then do you consider someone like Kelly or Justin Jackson, right? And I'm guessing they have some super high monstrous odds. Let's see here. Nah, it looks like it's already baked in probably. I'm sure they were higher earlier and people have already kind of smashed it for people who kind of researched earlier. So Jackson, you got +240. Kelly +240 on FanDuel. Let's see. On DraftKings, you have what do we got for them here? So it's better on DraftKings. Both of them, Jackson and Kelly, +350 anytime TD score. So, if Eckler, if you think he's going to be out and you're kind of leaning towards that way, obviously if the news breaks, then those guys, their odds are going to go down, pretty damn quick. So you'd be taking a gamble on a gamble again. But if you want to try to gamble on a gamble and get better value now before any kind of news breaks, those would be guys that, again, they're kind of outside long shots. And then if Eckler's in, then you're kind of screwed probably. But just to consider kind of keeping an eye on those as potential, kind of long shot value plays before any kind of news breaks. But again, you're gambling about news you haven't heard yet. So Mickey says Jared Cook, not a bad look. So let's see again, what are the Chiefs looking like against that position? Average against defending, that position. So 14th. So yeah, I mean, doesn't seem like they're locked down, versus that position. So that's not a bad thought either. Pretty good value there too. And again, I think especially if Eckler's not going to be there, then that might open up, him as another red zone target. So someone here saying Guyton. So we got some people fading Guyton. We got Agent Saro saying Guyton for a TD. Okay. All right. So let's take a look real quick before we drag this out too long, even with some of the things we said. All right. So let's just play around just to see what some odds will look like. So let's say I have DraftKings in front of me. So let's just use DraftKings just to kind of get a sense of it. So let's say you take the Chiefs -3. They don't even offer that now on their alternate lines because the line already shifted. So let's say -2.5 for the Chiefs. Let's say you did Edwards-Helaire. Let's say you did Kelsey. And then if you're on these because you think the Chiefs are going to play well and win, then let's say we go with that plus EV bet I talked about, passing completions, let's say over 25. Okay. Let's say because I said the Chargers have a soft spot versus tight ends. Let's see. Kelsey, his projections around 63.8 yards. By Fantasy Lab. So let's play something more conservative. Let's say we just do 50 yards for him, over 49.5. So, okay, so I'll repeat it back to you guys. So if this is kind of a Chiefs focus SGP, you have Chiefs minus 2.5. Okay. You have Edwards-Helaire to score. You have Kelsey to score. Mahomes, 25 completions. Kelsey over 50 yards or over. Okay, so that's a 5-leg same game parlay. Comes out to plus 950. Okay, not terrible. All right. Let's say you take out Kelsey and you just went with Edwards-Helaire, plus 625. Okay, so and that's just with 4 or 5 Chiefs props. Okay, so let's add back Kelsey again. And then someone said the Guyton under, so let's do the under like we said, right? Guyton. Let's do the SGP lines are weird. Let's just do under, tease it up a little bit, under 29.5. So shit, wow. Okay, so if you even just add under 29.5, it boosts it up to plus 1,700. Okay, so if you are really wanting to fade Guyton, that really boosts up the odds quite a bit. So let's say you just even do whatever, under 39.5, just to tease it up even further. Still plus 1,400 then. So all the Chiefs props that I already read off, and then you kind of add some kind of teased under for Guyton, juices up the odds quite a bit. So to answer, Aiden, you add that, the odds kind of shoot up quite a bit. So let's see here. And look, I hate unders because, basically, under could get blown up literally, in one pass basically. But let's go with our models here from, let's just trust analytics. I wasn't really leaning one way versus the other necessarily on the Chiefs, but since we have a handful of people who were up today to come participate in this who seem like they all like the Chiefs, so I'm just going to fire a small bet on this just for fun, since we kind of talked about some of these specific legs together, some of my ideas, some of your ideas. So we're incorporating, Mickey's suggestion about Edwards-Helaire, Aiden and Mickey talking about liking the Chiefs. We talked about Guyton under. So again, we're kind of just doing this on the fly. So I'm not going to throw a ton on here, but let's just have some fun. So I have Chiefs minus 2.5, Edwards-Helaire, Kelsey to score touchdowns, Mahomes 25 completions, Kelsey over 49.5 receiving yards, and then Guyton under 39.5. Totals plus 1,400. I'll add that to my bet slip. I'll throw $30 on there. Total payout 450, so 420 profit. So I just placed that just for fun, just to say that we kind of brainstormed together, and that'll be the version that I kind of made just from us kind of chatting together as a group. So, all right, man, it's getting late. It's past 1 a.m. here. I'll do some more research for individual props a little bit closer. Well, I have my kids' Christmas play tomorrow, so I can't even do it too close to game time. So I'll probably be looking during the afternoon, like at my lunch break or something at work. But look, analytics, they don't always play out, but we'll roll with some of these statistics from DVOA stats, projections from Fantasy Labs, people here in this group just throwing out ideas they liked. We just mashed them all together. Let's see how it goes. Don't throw too much on it because it's a crazy SGP. But like I said, I am going to do the positive EV play with the over on Mahomes completions on DraftKings over 25.5. I'll take a little bit more at the Darrell Williams projections because, like I said, Fantasy Labs had those rated pretty high. I just haven't followed his specific stats closely enough. But like I said, they seem to, like his. I'll repeat it one last time for those who missed it. They rated Darrell Williams over 2.5 receptions at plus 125 odds on DraftKings. They rated that a 10 out of 10. So, again, take it for what it's worth. They also liked his over on receiving yards at over 16.5 at MGM. So just take a look at those, do some research, DM me if you find anything interesting about those props. If the models just seem off and it doesn't make sense, or if you feel like they line up with what you're seeing with trends, let me know. Save me some time on researching Darrell Williams. But yeah, all right, it was fun. I'll try to do more of these later on, not so late at night at like freaking midnight, 1 a.m. But I was restless tonight. I know I'm not going to have much time to research tomorrow, so I figured I'd do this with a few of you. So yeah, man, if you guys have any other good thoughts, long shot angles, send them my way. But this is kind of my process. I probably use a little too many tools, but that's kind of the process I usually go through. I reference Football Outsiders, some projections from Fantasy Labs, look if it matches up with good value on OddsJam, trends on props.cash, and just saves me a lot of time versus Googling and manually looking at stuff. So hope that kind of helps you just see also what some of those tools can or can't do. But yeah, good luck on your bets tomorrow. It's always fun chatting with you guys, messaging each other, moaning together when we get bad beats. So bet responsibly, don't go crazy, and hopefully we cash a few tomorrow. So good luck. I'll talk to you guys later.